JOS has been a hotspot for crisis for a very long time. And the reason I'm going to be talking about this is because I was affected by that crisis in 2008. And I have seen how it has affected the trajectory of the state, the people, and the country at large. I want to talk about the JOS crisis trauma. If you are not from Nigeria, JOS is a city in Plateau State that is in Nigeria. It is in the middle belt of the country, but it's tilting towards the north. JOS has been a hotspot for crisis for a very long time. And the reason I'm going to be talking about this is because I was affected by that crisis in 2008. And I have seen how it has affected the trajectory of the state, the people, and the country at large. Anybody that has lived in JOS, whether directly or indirectly, have been affected by the trauma of Plateau State. It has affected family structures, it has affected culture, it has affected the educational system, it has affected social engagement, and most importantly, it has affected the mental health of the people in Nigeria at large, even though it comes from JOS. I believe that trauma is transferable. So somebody can get a trauma from the US and that trauma finds its way down to wherever you are. That's why I'm having this conversation, because I can at least tell you how the trauma from JOS affects the country and how it can even affect the world at large. You know, when we're talking about mental health, people tend to reduce it to an individual level. But mental health is not just an individual thing. I believe that it has ripple effects on the society. So let's start by story, yeah? One random day on the 28th of November 2008, my dad just woke me up early in the morning and said, "Put on your clothes. We need to move out." And I'm like, "What's happening?" He said, "They're fighting. They are still fighting around Nasarawa Gom in JOS." I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, let me wear my canvas. Let's go and fight them. Let's go and kill everybody. And, he just indulged me and said, "Let's go." So I was like, okay, wait, now let me carry my laptop. I need to watch movies as we are going out. Then he said, "No, don't worry, we'll come back." Then that morning, before we left the house, he started praying for all of us. Then at some point, we started hearing gunshots, and he said we should lie down. Then they said we should leave our house and go to one of our neighbor's house. We left the house, went to our neighbor's house. Apparently, they were looking for my dad because he was part of the target. They were about to kill another woman's son, thinking it was my dad. The woman then saved her son and pointed to the house where my dad was. The terrorists broke into the house where my dad was. And my dad, knowing that if they knew that all of us were together, they would have probably lynched everybody, he just jumped through another fence to create a diversion so that we can be safe. I didn't even know that there was already fire in the room where the kids were. And, they just left us and went after my dad. I thought that my dad went to bring soldiers to save us actually, but that was like the last time I saw him. Fast forward to after my dad died, after burial, people just randomly, suddenly started telling me stuff like, "You are now the husband of your mother and you are now the father of your siblings." I feel like that was where my trauma started, because I just felt like I was now in charge of protecting them like my father protected us. That's why I got a funny sleeping disorder. I don't know what it's called. If you're a therapist, you can reach out to me with whatever it's called. So what happens is that whenever I'm sleeping, if anything moves around me, I jack up like I'm ready to fight. And that was me thinking that I was protecting my family. So it was normal to me at the time. I had to start thinking like a father, even though I didn't even know what thinking like a father meant. So I had to put myself in the place of father, and it started making me lose a lot of experiences that I should have had as a child. I don't know what the experience is for my siblings. For example, my last born was some months old when my dad died, so he does not even have an experience of knowing who his father was. Sometimes I ask him and he's indifferent about it. So his experience is quite different from mine. My younger sister's experience is different from mine. I just think that people experience these traumas on different level, but this is my own story. I got into school because I didn't have a father. I had to mask trauma. My way of masking trauma was hurting other people because, I just felt like I should make people laugh. And I did that by stroking other people, which probably traumatized them. And maybe they also will take that trauma and give it to another person, and the trauma keeps morphing. And that's how the crisis of JOS can evolve into a lot of things that we may not be able to see. Family structure. There were a lot of people that lost their fathers at that point, because I think at that point the world was still fair. They did not used to kill they didn't kill mothers and children. So a lot of family structures were warped at the time. People didn't have fathers. We had less fathers in Plateau State. I just think that if we do not begin to raise the conversation of this crisis and talk about how it affects us, we will not be able to begin our healing journey. Let me talk about my mom briefly. I think I'll bring her to the podcast at some point. When the crisis happened, there was this body that came in from the US. I don't know their name, but they took a lot of widows to Miango Guest Home at the time and helped them through trauma healing. And my mom was telling me the story, how that during the trauma healing, there was a time that came where they were supposed to forgive the people that killed their husbands. And a lot of people were crying and saying, I cannot forgive them. I cannot forgive them. I will never forgive them. My mom said she let go. And I believe that was part of why she was stable enough to raise all of us. Because imagine somebody living with the anger and pain of her husband being killed, and she just starts moving anyhow based on that trauma. The trauma will have affected the children, and I probably wouldn't have been here talking about trauma. So I just want to bring this to your awareness that the JOS crisis has actually affected a lot of things. I'm using the JOS crisis as a case study. A lot of other states have crisis, and it has affected them, and the trauma travels interstates, even travels internationally. That's part of why I do Not Fine. I believe that when Not Fine has resources, we should be able to go into these refugee camps and actually help them with their minds. Above just feeding their bellies, we can help people, we can restore people into the society and bring them back to sanity. I don't know if you believe in orphanages, but I thought about the idea of orphanages, and I don't really buy it, because I believe that every child is supposed to be developed in a proper family unit. Even though Plateau State is called the home of peace and tourism, it was a home that bred terror. Even though now peace is coming back, and as we're healing individually, we can heal as a state, we can heal as a nation. And if you really understand the conversation I just had here, you will know that the development of our country lies firstly in the hands of the individual, then it translates to the family, then translates to the society, the state, and the nation. If the human can take control of their lives and begin to heal, then the nation is going to be better. So I've come to implore us to become serious about healing, understanding that being not fine is okay, but remaining there is what's not okay. The nation, the state of our nation is in our hands, and we can start from where we are. That's why not fine exists. I have started this conversation. I will hope that you engage with me in the comment section. Let's keep it going so that we can find solution to our state of being not fine. Take care of your mind, guys, and see you on the next episode of Not Fine Podcast. Peace.